When it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind Around with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The A-Team that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind Around for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind Around for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
It is Monday night. Rewind a Raw begins now. I am John Pollock along with the WWF's own Wai Ting, who is with us. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John. How's it going?
It's going well.
All right. How are your legs?
My legs are fine. I feel completely fine, to be quite honest. I have I had other issues yesterday, but climbing the CN Tower was not one of them. A surprisingly a ambitious start to my day on Sunday, but I can't say I was really I was not in pain afterwards, so that's a good sign, I guess.
Same. I'm also pleasantly surprised. First of all, at just how okay I feel today, and how well we did. Honestly, not to maybe brag about it, but I think we all considerably did better than what we were expecting.
What were you expecting going in? Did you have any? I didn't eat. My goal was finish. That was my goal. So I didn't go in with any lofty expectations. But you were you're a guy that you set out and you have like a very dialed in focus, I will say, when it comes to these things. Well, on that note, it looks like Wai was it was just too much for him at the CN Tower. So we have lost Wai already. So there you go. His endurance was much better on Sunday, let me tell you. Well, we will do our best to reconnect with one Wai Ting, and we will be going over all of tonight's action from Raw in beautiful North Little Rock, Arkansas. So in addition, we also wanted to make mention of everything that is coming up on the site today, or this week, I should say. So on Thursday this week, a special note, Rewind Away is going to be coming out on Thursday because we are moving it to Thursdays for the time being. We find this to be a bit of a better day for Rewind Away to be coming out. So that will start this week. And boy, do we have a review for you. All Wheels Wrestling. Most of you are probably asking yourselves, what is All Wheels Wrestling? The answer is going to be revealed on Thursday. Probably two of you have seen this pilot that was shot in 2011, and we have dug this pilot up through the miraculous video sharing service that is Vimeo, and we'll be chatting about that on this week's Rewind Away. And the question will be, can we bring Wai to Rewind Away? Because the wheels are falling off here of Rewind to Raw as we get ready for All Wheels Wrestling Week at Post Wrestling.
My apologies, just having some technical issues here. So my camera's not necessarily working, but apologies, John. Where did we leave off?
You were about to tell me how great your endurance was at the CN Tower, and then boom, you just dropped off the face of the earth. But yeah. I was asking you what your goal was going into, because this, for people that have been following our adventure into climbing the CN Tower, this was Wai's idea. This all was concocted from your I won't call it a midlife crisis, but this was Wai saying, you know what, 39, I'm attacking this, and I'm going to make sure I get all my friends to do this as well. And there we were on Sunday morning with you.
I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do. You stare at the thing long enough your whole life. And I guess what's really the best way of interacting with it besides climbing it, right? Or at least walking up. So it's something I've always wanted to do. And I suppose being a year away from turning 40 was enough of an excuse to do something physical, just to at least see. Because I don't know if I'd be doing this maybe 10 or even, that much longer from now. So I wanted to just kind of test myself, and I was expecting maybe what I heard, what the average was 30 minutes, something like that. So I was expecting to do at least better than that, or at least around that. And we ended up, you and I, it took us 20 minutes to do it. So
yeah, 20 and change.
Yeah, I when they announced the times, for us, I was really surprised. I thought it would be closer to 30 because when you're up there, you have no sense of time. They don't play music, really nothing other than the levels of the flights, and that was maybe a bit of a sort of mental struggle too. Because at the base, when you're about to start, there's somebody who just kind of like talks to you and says, "All right, everybody, however, blah 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 blah, 1,776 steps." And in my head or in my ears, I heard 44 flights. And I'm like, okay, 44. Like I have no idea how much of a how many steps are in a flight. So in my head, I'm thinking 44. So I'm going up these steps and then I'm just seeing these numbers for every flight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Soon enough, I was at 20 and I was like, wow, okay, this isn't so bad at all. Like I still feel pretty fresh. I could probably,
I love that you compare like the CN Tower, 44 flights of stairs.
Well, who knows? How much is in a flight? Like, is that a mathematical equation?
I mean, these were okay, but go on.
Anyway, okay. So I'm
once you get to 43, what are you thinking of?
So let me just tell you, John. Like even at 20, I'm like, oh, I still got good energy. Like I could give it like a really good go. When I get to maybe 39, I'll really push. All right, I'll really exhaust myself. Championship rounds, here I come. 44 comes. And I'm like, well, where's the end? Like this thing is going. And then they have like these sort of like, I guess EMTs that are pretty much at every few floors. And I eventually asked one of them, hey, like how many floors are in this thing? 144. I wasn't even halfway. So at that point, I'm just like, okay.
Dude, you weren't even a third of the way there. So I had the opposite. So in the whole lead up, I keep hearing 1776. That's the number everyone just keeps telling me is the number of steps, 1776. And at the beginning, like I hear that number, I never once heard the number of flights. So I'm going up this and I'm getting to 10, I'm getting to 11. And that's when I'm realizing, wait a minute, the number of steps is totally irrelevant. I have no idea how many flights are going here. Like I never heard 144. I never heard that number. And I'm just trying to think back. I was like, did anyone mention this? So I'm eavesdropping on people. I'm listening for clues such as halfway there. And I'm doing the math in my head and I'm doing the opposite of you. I had it in the range of 142 to 148. So in my head, I thought 160. Because the last thing I wanted to do was get to a number in my head when I'm mentally done and it's still going. So I was just thinking think higher. And that was, I had no idea how long I had to go on this thing for about at least half of the flights, which is, we're talking like 75 flights.
And when you're talking about like all this, like, calculating and just like all this, I guess like mental stress, if you want to call it that.
And pacing yourself too. Like I did not stop. I did not stop for any breaks on this thing. I just kept going. But I was like, I'm also cognizant of the time. I want to have a respectable time at the end of this thing.
Well, I just wanted to do my best, right? And when you're doing all of this, I mean, you're not really like you have no sense of time. That's why, like in my head, I thought, oh, okay, this is probably close to like 30 minutes. And when they announced 20, I was like, wow, that was a lot quicker than I thought. But I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank the BDE for joining me last minute as well, because it was certainly like a lot more fun, to be motivated by having friends that are doing this with me. And we raised a lot of money. We raised $1,645. So thank you to every single person who contributed and made a donation or simply wished us luck. Maybe we'll do it again, John.
I want to thank you. I'm glad that you wrote me into doing this, because when I agreed, it was a good push for me, because I took this very seriously. I will tell you, like I changed up my diet. I started working out this last 4 weeks because my fear was like dying on this thing. I know this thing is not the most ambitious exercise, but I did not want to be just dying on this thing. So I honestly spent like 4 weeks trying to get as ready for this as I could. That is an undertaking here. It sounds like we just ran a marathon, but nonetheless, this was still it was
without knowing like what it actually takes. It feels that way. Like you look at that thing from the base, and it's just like, I mean,
this is not an easy thing. Like that amount of steps, like you can climb. Like if you live at a condo, you can climb those flights, but it's like you cannot adequately prepare for 144 flights anywhere in one of the world's largest freestanding structures. It's pretty much just figuring out it's like leg strength with cardio is kind of the mix you're going for in this.
I actually I've never done like any sort of exercising using steps before. I've never like trained steps. It actually is like a really great form of exercise. You know, it's like it's not like running tends to like, you know, screw up my knees from time to time just because of the impact. But like stairs, I could do plenty and feel fine afterwards. So, well, how are you going to keep this up? How are you going to continue your sort of fitness routine?
I definitely want to find something that will scare me into continuing. I need to have something at the end of it that I can. Well, if you don't do this, you're going to be embarrassed. So that's what I need. So maybe I'm going to run a 15K or something like that. We'll find out. We'll do something, you and me. Because I will rope you into something now.
All right, your pick.
All right. How good was that breakfast afterwards? Last thing on this thing, because that was one of the best meals ever. And this was a basic breakfast joint we went to, but God, was that meal good.
I could have eaten like, you know, sludge, and it probably would have been the best meal ever. Absolutely. Oh, great time. Yeah.
After I got home from Rebellion, my plan was get home, I'm going to watch Succession, and I'm going to sleep because I was just dead beat tired. And then my son was up sick all night. So I was up with him until I went to sleep around 4:45. So I was up for close to 22 hours by the time. Wow. And then up at 8 today. So my son has just he's got this like crazy chest infection. So I was out with him all morning, taking him to the doctors and everything today. I will enjoy going to sleep tonight, hopefully. So anyway, that was my Monday.
Quite the start to the week.
That's how they go. Well, we have the start of this week at Post Wrestling. I mentioned earlier, Rewind Away will be dropping on Thursday this week with All Wheels Wrestling. 48 minutes, a great choice for this particular week, where you can see the likes of RPM, Dubai, and everyone's favorite, Swag D, in action.
I mean, really, this is, I think, the culmination of our F1 discussions on these reviews, really. The combination of motorsports and professional wrestling, match made in heaven. TNA actually tried to put that together in a wrestling product. Let's see how it turns out.
That is right. We are also going to be back at 10 p.m. Eastern on Friday for Rewind to SmackDown. There is no Rampage on Friday. Rampage is on Saturday night this week. So that will be the start time once again. And also want to alert people to Stardom's Dream All-Star Grand Queendom. That is right, man. They're various grands and dreams. They have lots of them. They are at Yokohama Arena this Sunday. Huge pay-per-view. So it's getting the royal treatment this week because Karen Peterson and Bruce Lord are going to be doing not one, but two shows this week, including a free primer that is going to be released on Wednesday, previewing the card and acting as a jumping on point for those that maybe are not as familiar with Stardom or some of the key feuds and characters leading into Sunday's show. Maybe you're coming for the Mercedes match with Mayu Iwatani, but it's a great card overall for a company that has grown exponentially over the last 2 years. And this is a huge show for them. And then they will be back on Sunday for our cafe members with a post show. So a double dose of Bruce Lord, as he has been coined now, the Brew Dog with Karen Peterson.
One person has coined that. I don't know if that's a name that'll
I think that one's going to take off. A Brandon from New Jersey selection, the Brew Dog.
Yeah, a great show with Brew Dog and Michael today. David Myers, who has now been christened Michael, according to Brandon. So
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers, exactly. That was a great edition of Postmarks. Hope you guys enjoyed it on the free feed. All those shows Bruce and David do such a great job with. Those can be found in the Post Wrestling Cafe feed every single month. So
that's right.
I'm really excited about this Stardom show. Would you say this is Stardom's biggest event that they've ever done?
I would say they are going into it with the expectation of it being that. So yeah, this is going to be a very, very big show for them. Major arena at Yokohama Arena, and ultimately, this is what everything was leading towards with Mercedes, was having this big show in April, and where they go after it as well. If she sticks around for more, if she just drops the title to Mayu, it's not the main event, but it's a very loaded show. So tune in Wednesday. The primer will be free for everybody, and then the post show on the Post Wrestling Cafe, as is the Impact Rebellion post show that John Cena and I did earlier today. I got to attend Rebellion, and Cena watched the broadcast. So we have a hour-long breakdown of that pay-per-view, and we'll get into that in the news. But starting off with the news, I wanted to get some of your thoughts, Wai, about the reports that are out about the proposed Saturday night show that AEW looks to be in the midst of finalizing. Andrew Zarian has done a lot of reporting on this story, and it's looking like tentative plans are for the Saturday show to debut sometime in June, with a potential slot of 8 to 10 Eastern on Saturday nights, and with the working title of Collision. It's worth noting that in May the 17th, Warner Brothers Discovery will be holding their upfronts, and this could be something that they're waiting for closer to or around that time to release this information. But the key being that this is a show that could also serve not just 2 hours more of television, which one would theorize would be in addition to the deal they currently have with Warner Brothers Discovery, and that would be a separate rights fee that they're getting for this show, but also a place that could house CM Punk. And it seems like this could be, at first, it was described by Andrew Zarian as a bit of a soft brand split, but it might be more defined than just a soft brand split. We will see. A lot of balls are in the air here, but just looking at the big picture, the idea of this show, Wai, this would be adding to AEW essentially having a show out pretty much every night of the week, with the addition of Ring of Honor on Thursdays, and then this on Saturdays, which is a very difficult night when you look at the competition in sports. Competition once a month from WWE, every week from UFC. There's going to be preemptions in there. What do you feel about this idea, especially if it's centered around Punk as the key star of this, of getting this off the ground?
Right. Yeah. Well, from the beginning, we know the reason why Tony Khan took an interest in starting a professional wrestling promotion was because of the massive TV rights fees that were being, paid to the WWE. And I think expansion is always going to be something he's looking at. And CM Punk, this entire story with him and the Elite, it's certainly unfortunate, but there's money to be made. And when there's money to be made, you think about what your options are. And one of the options that might satisfy the locker room, might satisfy Punk, might satisfy the Elite, is to separate him. And in the same process, can you sell another product? Can you create a new product out of this controversy, out of this, disagreement between the rosters? It's not ideal. I don't think you ever want to give anybody this much power to, say like, hey, we're going to create a show just for you. But I don't think this is just creating a show just for a person.
It would seem like this is a larger idea that it helps in terms of it being like I don't think they're going to, hey, how can we save CM Punk and this situation? It's more so, this is a chance we have for a new show, and it gives, if we're going to be adding a second night of tapings, we can look at it this way as an avenue for a Punk.
And if you're going to pick a franchise, draw for that particular show, Punk is really your best bet. He's look what he did for that, for a second edition of Rampage. If people are going to have any chance of making an effort to stay up for a Saturday, primetime show, or be around for a Saturday primetime show, it's with a lead like Punk. So for the health of AEW, I think this is wonderful. What it means, though, for, I think, consumption of some of their other products, I really do feel like, Dark and Elevation at this point, I question really what the benefit is, besides maybe, having developmental, maybe creating, like a library that's a lot deeper for future maybe streaming purposes or whatever. But I see maybe
sort of the function of Ring of Honor.
Well, that's the thing too. What becomes of Ring of Honor? And what becomes a Rampage? Like I think the prestige of those brands are going to be even lesser unless they find specific purposes for their existence. What exactly, like WWE is able to get away with having a Raw, having a SmackDown, and having an NXT, with NXT serving a very specific purpose. And maybe that's what Ring of Honor will eventually become, more of your, genuine sort of quote unquote developmental brand.
Well, you need the Saturday show to be a Dynamite. Like that's what you need this show to be. And if that means your ROH becomes your NXT, for lack of a better comparison, Rampage certainly feels like a show that I don't know if that inspires your confidence of them being able to, despite how deep this roster is, of expanding that demand to yet another night of the week, which is a very hard night to draw that audience in. Like you are talking about a bit of a younger audience for AEW. We've talked about the handicaps of running on Friday night. Saturday night is going to present that as well. And it also becomes the question of like what this roster again, there's so many questions about this, but the roster makeup, if a CM Punk goes down again, like what becomes of that Saturday night show? Is it enough that it's sustainable? Like you can always mix and match different people, but how many people on that roster would you have the confidence can carry a flagship show? And there's not even a guarantee, Punk, that X amount of months into this, that Saturday night show will have the same level of interest. Like they have a clear number one show that is pretty must-see if you're an AEW fan. And the rest of the programming, from Battle of the Belts to Rampage and ROH that we have seen now a month or so in, it's sort of watch at your leisure. But is it something that if I miss it, I'm frantically searching for it? I don't think it has that urgency, and you need a show that has urgency.
Agreed. I think they've been trying to, maybe if we're talking soft, brand split, that to me is kind of what Ring of Honor has been an experiment in doing, separating guys where you might only see wrestle on an ROH. I don't think you can, save a Castagnoli, save an Eddie Kingston, save a Samoa Joe for ROH if you're going to go ahead with these two distinct rosters. You're going to need your all-star cast on both Dynamite and on the Saturday show. So I don't know if ROH, is going to it'll probably be hurt by this, but it's something that they can sacrifice, honestly, and maybe turn that more into your developmental brand.
Yeah, I think that there is a way that all of this can work. I do feel that it's only going to add to the discussion point about Tony Khan's plate and being able to delegate some of the booking responsibilities. I would not, just looking at how much he has taken on by himself on the booking direction, I wouldn't see him handing the Saturday show off to anyone. But at that point, should he be someone that has to sit down and write 4 weeks of Ring of Honor television when they go to Universal Studios? Whatever becomes of Rampage, like it's very hard to imagine in any of these scenarios that Rampage still becomes a show that, I mean, just to maintain its current level, I think that's going to be really challenging unless they have an ace up their sleeve of something to make Friday unique. And asking your audience to stay home Friday and Saturday, even to DVR the show and watch it the next day, man, there's only so much time.
Agreed. I'd be curious to see if he addresses it at all, because I don't think he has addressed, maybe criticisms of Rampage for like the past year. I would say it still very much feels like a show that you can skip unless you really wanted to see certain stars.
But let's also not understate the fact that Warner Brothers Discovery, like if you are going forward and greenlighting another 2 hours and you're looking at, they didn't go for Ring of Honor, but the idea of currently with All Access, you have 3 hours on Wednesday nights, you have an hour on Friday night, you have potentially 2 hours on Saturday. Wrestling is a huge part of the footprint now of TNT and to a lesser degree TBS, and it would only serve that to lose this property would be how much you would have to new content you would have to create to fill these gaps that pro wrestling provides you on a weekly basis. It would seem to me that Warner Brothers Discovery understands the value this particular brand of wrestling brings to them, even though the ROH brand was not something that they were looking at. And we go back to that interview a while ago about more out of the ring content, and thus Ring of Honor did not find its way onto the schedule. But this looks to be a 2-hour in-ring show that is not named Ring of Honor that Tony Khan was trying to shop months ago.
Well, I think simply beyond wanting more wrestling content, they probably want maybe a certain ownership of the branding. If they're like not maybe literally, I have no idea what the corporate makeup of AEW's ownership is beyond like Tony Khan and his father being heavily involved. But would they want to promote another brand, watered down, potentially maybe sort of like the wrestling, I guess, identity of TBS or TNT with this sort of extra thing that, people who aren't you and I, casual viewers, might not necessarily know about. And what is structurally, like corporately, like what is the difference between a Ring of Honor and an AEW? It's owned by Tony Khan, separate from whatever sort of like structure he has with AEW. So that might, be part of the reason as well. But it could just simply be as simple as like, hey, we want to invest in the AEW brand and not whatever else you're, trying to create over there.
Last one on this. What do you think about Saturday night? Like, we know Tony
It's
Khan's
not ideal. It never is ideal, especially when you've got, UFC competition. You've got, I'm sure, other sports that
WWE once a month.
Yeah, not ideal. But if you're TBS, TNT, maybe it's the one night of the week that you can offer, for this extra professional wrestling. Like, do they have a hang up with like giving pro wrestling another primetime weekday slot? Maybe. But if you're Tony Khan, you kind of take what you can get.
If you're Tony Khan, like, he has made it clear he does not want to run against the NFL, and that takes out Monday, that takes out Thursday, and that takes out Sunday. Like, there's only so many nights of the week. If you take Tony Khan at that face value that he does not want those nights, and who's to say he'd even be offered those Monday makes no sense. I would not be running on Monday nights, but like, there's only so many. But Saturday that's a tough night. It's a very, very tough night. Not just for sports, but your direct competitors. When you are running, WWE, it's going to be a lot of Saturdays that they run against, not to mention like every month you're looking at probably a WWE show, unless they do the odd Sunday. And you're definitely going against the UFC every Saturday, not the fight nights, but which you are, but the pay-per-views that, to me, they're the big fights. It's just a lot that it's
not ideal. Clearly, like, I don't think it would, be anybody's first choice to run any sort of like weekly professional wrestling product. But man, if they're going to pay you for it, if it's your foot in the door to establish whatever the show is going to be called, so that one day you can move it to a different day, either with Warner, or you could sell it to another network, the way Raw and SmackDown are on different networks, like, do it. Why not? So I think from a business perspective, like, it makes a whole lot of sense why he would be going this way. And, maybe there's an added benefit of being able to work a CM Punk back into your system as well.
I wanted to go over some of the highlights of some of the big shows from over the weekend. Not going to go too in depth into all of them, but some of the key things from each, starting with a Capital Collision, which was a show I got to see all of on Saturday night. Very good show in Washington, D.C. It's an Aussie Open, winning the strong open weight tag titles from the Motor City Machine Guns and the Dream Team of Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kazuchika Okada. So Aussie Open now have both the IWGP and the strong open weight tag titles. They pinned Chris Sabin after Coriolis and then had a stare down with Okada and Tanahashi. So it seems that Aussie Open is, I'm guessing, probably lining up for Okada and Tanahashi at Dominion. If Tanahashi loses to Ospreay and Ospreay goes to the tournament final at Dominion, you can free up Tanahashi. Although Tanahashi did suffer a rib injury in this match and didn't work Sunday night show in Philadelphia, but it was a very good main event. Other matches I would recommend, Tomohiro Ishii and El Desperado had an excellent match, and Zack Sabre Jr. retaining the television title against Tom Lawler. Tom Lawler has had some great matches. Among the singles matches I have seen with Tom Lawler, this is in the upper echelon. He was excellent with Zack. Their styles mesh so well. And I continue to enjoy this television title. We sometimes lament the addition of titles, and that's sort of a misnomer. I kind of push back when it's titles that are being added for the sake of them and that don't have an identity or a purpose. This television title, it's been able to have its own unique place on each card. And Zack Sabre Jr. to establish this title is probably your best guy, and he is doing some excellent matches of late with Shota Umino, and this Tom Lawler match was excellent, save for a spot where Lawler, you thought he was busted from his mouth, but his tooth actually went through his lip, and that's where the blood came. So, painful.
Ouch.
Probably watching some 2008 Champion Carnival on the flight home with his tooth injury. They also did a big angle where Clark Connors attacked the DKC after losing a 10-man tag, and Clark Connors joined the Bullet Club later in the night when David Finlay invited him in and pretty much ran down the former Bullet Club members. And he's going after savages. He wants to recruit savages to the Bullet Club. This isn't any of that Bullet Club gold stuff. This is the savages that he's going for. He didn't put in that line about Bullet Club gold, but and then the other thing was announcing the All-Star Junior Festival, August 19th in Philadelphia at the 2300 Arena. And the following night, it will be Multiverse United 2, where Impact and New Japan will collaborate again at a 2300 Arena. So that is coming up in August, but a really good show. And then they were in Philadelphia the next night with royalty on hand, with Mike Murray in attendance at the 2300 Arena.
Wow, international royalty making all
huge,
the trip
huge.
down.
We had the post crew at all different parts of the wrestling world on Sunday night, including myself, who was at Rebellion at the sold out Rebel Complex. Wade, did you go to one of the Rebel shows?
Yeah, I believe I went to maybe the first show that they did, the one where they shot the scene where the kid got run over.
Oh, that's right, where LAX went to run over a kid. Yes. Yeah, some of Impact's greatest hits. I have never been to this venue for wrestling, and far be it for me to say, let's go to the Authority. Dude, WH loved this venue. Okay,
it's beautiful, like for professional wrestling. Like what capacity? About 1,000. Right?
I would guess around 1,000, like 1,200. That was my guess.
But it's the perfect size for 1,000. You know, like it's a nightclub, so like you get like illuminated ceilings. There's a balcony with the second level.
Screens look great in there.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah. The way it was set up is that if you had your ringside seats, like you have your designated seats, GA, it's pretty much a free for all for seats, and you do have to, it's first come first serve. So for a show that was legit sold out, there was only standing room, and it was packed. You were not fitting any more people in this for the pay-per-view. Not going to go into all the notes because me and Sino went through it, but among the notes, Deonna Purrazzo winning the vacant Knockouts title, Steve Macklin winning the vacant Impact title, 2 clean heel wins to close the show, and it was the women going on last. And Nick Aldis made his return in the men's championship match and setting something up with Steve Macklin. Based on tonight's tapings, it looks like next month's special, Under Siege, will be Steve Macklin against PCO. And the long-term plan looks to be Steve Macklin and Nick Aldis, because with Josh Alexander down, they are lacking that big babyface star. Like your next in line are like PCO, Frankie Kazarian. So for a Nick Aldis, I don't know when this deal was reached, but he was someone that he's been a free agent for months now. And I don't know if many saw him going to a WWE or an AEW. Creatively, I think that Impact is probably going to suit him much better than potentially just be, the age factor is going to work against him in WWE. And I think in AEW, I don't know, would he stand out in AEW? It's tough.
Agreed. I think Impact's a really good fit for him. He could really be the top dog. He could be a franchise player for the brand.
He's a great promo, has that aura of a top guy. Like I think he will work very well.
His wife is of legendary status within the company, especially. So there's a lot of potential, I think.
Mm-hmm. And also wanted to note, like, the most emotional thing on the show was a speech that Tommy Dreamer gave before the Hardcore War, noting that his mother suffered a brain bleed during the week and is in really rough shape. And he Impact told him you don't have to do the pay-per-view, but he came. He wants to do it. This is his break away from everything. And this was just the most heartfelt speech that he gave before. And he's doing it with the 4 teammates in the back. And they're like tearing up as they're listening to Tommy give this speech. And it just added something else to the hardcore war. And he prefaced it before the match that after this one, I'm taking time off to get myself together and everything. So he ended up winning. It was the hardcore war. It got over really well in the audience, just with all the plunder, all the hardcore stuff. Like it worked for this crowd. So their next show is Under Siege, May 27th. And of course, they've got the Multiverse show in August, and they're coming back to Toronto with Emergence on August 27th, and then doing tapings the next night, the 27th being the same day as All In. So yeah, that's a tough day. All In will be an afternoon show, right? But yeah, I think for wrestling fans, that's probably going to be a 4 to 5 hour show with All In. So we will see how well they do, but they did sell out the show on Sunday night. So a good show from Impact overall. And I was trying to think about this, and I had never thought about it until WH asked me. I think that last night was the first time I have ever attended a TNA or an Impact show live.
Really? Are you sure?
I cannot think of another time. Anytime they came up here.
We've been to a house show, I think. I'm pretty sure. Like
we did. That's right. Yeah. We did go to a house show once.
Yes.
You and I did. Because I was trying to think, anytime they came up here for a pay-per-view, I was doing the Law on the Sunday. I never went to a live pay-per-view, and I didn't go to any of the recent shows that they were up here before the pandemic. I was really trying to rack my brain, but you are right. We did go to a TNA house show once.
It's not like they were touring really.
No, Toronto, and not always even WrestleMania weekends where we were, that it was the show to hit up, even if they did run. All right. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. And TripleMania 31. I've not gotten to see this show, although the main event sounded very strong, with Vikingo retaining the Mega Championship against Commander, Rich Swann, and Swerve Strickland after a 6:30 onto Commander. Mystices Jr. and Arhennis were the final 2 in the 10-person cage. So that set up a singles match later in the night. In the cage match, Mystices Jr., I retweeted this, just the craziest shooting star press off the top of this cage, but the camera work. This was the greatest shot shooting star press I have ever seen. The cut to the low angle of him coming off, this guy looked like he was flying. This looked like something out of a Marvel film, the way they shot this. It was an unbelievable way. So anyway, for that great spot, he ended up being one of the last 2. So they had the battle, and Arhennis was unmasked in the end. And they're doing another of their tournaments where the losers advance throughout the Triple Manias. So Pentagon Jr. and Alberto Patron beat Sam Adonis and Psycho Clown, and Blue Demon Jr. and DMT Azul beat Roosh and LA Rush. So the 2 losing teams meet on July 15th, and then the losing team, those teammates, meet on August 12th in a mask versus hair match. The ultimate loser tournament. That
so every team is with somebody with hair.
It's a mask guy with someone with their hair. So
interesting.
You look at these, I would think that Psycho Clown and Sam Adonis probably are the end matchup where you would think that Sam Adonis is losing his hair. Unless they pull something out and get someone to unmask. I don't think Roosh is losing his hair in AAA, so that would be probably a safe assumption. But that was that. And Chessman, there was no social media influencer on the show, and instead Vampiro was the mystery opponent, and Vampiro won. I did not see the match, but I'm sure you people can envision what happened. But there you go. That was Triple Mania. And also the Cinderella tournament, that was won by Mirai, and Karen Peterson has a full rundown of the Cinderella finals. Dude, there was so much stuff going on this weekend, and I feel this is going to be every weekend.
Well, there are a lot of wrestling promotions out there, and ways to watch almost all of them these days. So sure.
Will Ospreay will be returning this Saturday for 1PW against Bobby Fish. And he put out a video that he was cleared on Friday, this after his shoulder injury that has taken him out of action for the last month or so. And he's been going to physio for the last 5 weeks, but still has weakness in his arm. And the way he explained this in this video, he was almost surprised that he was cleared, because he's like, I still have some weakness in my arm, but he's going ahead with this match because Bobby Fish and 1PW can't wait. And admits he can't do some of the things he could when he was 22 years old. He's cut out doing shooting star presses and doesn't know how long this ride's going to be. And the bigger match he has is Tanahashi May 21st. And then that winner will face Lance Archer at Dominion to determine who faces Kenny Omega. So with Tanahashi on deck, a potential rematch. Well, we know we're going to get the rematch with Omega. It's just a matter of when. And you would think Ospreay probably involved in something big at All In. He's going to be called upon a lot. And I mean, you certainly look at this. I'm certain, like, obviously the injury is legit, but is this also going to be woven into his character as well? That this is someone who is going to be, you know, his body is breaking down and sort of blurring the line, essentially. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of realness attached to this, is some of it being emphasized for story purposes as well.
I would hope so, you know, as a Will Ospreay fan and somebody who wants to see him, you know, have an incredibly long career, but I'm sure there's some truth to it. You can't
I don't doubt that you
can't wrestle that style and expect to, you know, keep up at that pace, you know, not just the style, but the pace as well. And the international travel that the guy does. You can't expect to keep that up, you know, throughout your 30s. So the man
is 29, dude. 29, he turns 30 in a few weeks.
I was looking it up myself too, because it seems awfully early to hear of somebody, you know, speak of like not knowing how much longer he's got doing this. And I'm
like Tom Billington.
Yeah, and I'm somebody who wants to see, you know, Will Ospreay wrestle for the rest of his life. So I hope. I mean, he is incredibly smart as a professional wrestler, and I think he's shown skill that's beyond just being able to pull off shooting star presses. So, if these are limitations that'll ultimately make him like an even better, you know, psychological wrestler, make him improve other things as a part of his game, then well, hopefully it's a good thing. But yeah, I hope he stays healthy.
SmackDown on Friday, they were down this week going against the NBA play-in games. They did 2,265,000 viewers and a 0.58. So it was their lowest demo audience since February 17th, lowest audience in the past month. Also down 29% in 18 to 34. And in Canada, they came back down to earth with a 42% drop this week. A lot of that is they are now going against the Toronto Blue Jays, which on Friday, the Jays did over 1 million viewers, which is like, think about that, folks. Like, that is just gigantic numbers when you're thinking about it.
Like, what's the population of our country?
Like, to get the US equivalent, roughly multiply that by 8. And that's like what you're talking about. So imagine getting like 8 million viewers for a Major League Baseball game in the States. Yeah. Like, that's not happening. So the
Canadian population is 38 million.
Yeah.
So like a good chunk of the country. Basically.
And this week, you've also got the Leafs in the playoffs starting. So they're playing Tuesday and Thursday this week. So that's not going to affect WWE or AEW, but the longer this series goes, and if the Leafs go deep in the playoffs, which, there could be some big numbers. I assume they'll be out in the first round, though.
Probably.
Do you know who they're playing?
No idea. Who?
Tampa. Yes. Who eliminated them last year. Will you be watching Game 1 on Tuesday night?
Probably not. No. I'm more
Did you watch the whole Netflix live Love-In thing on Sunday night? Were you part of this? Did you follow this big controversy?
No.
They were going to air this finale live, and then they didn't have the capabilities to air it live. It was a whole disaster.
What were they airing? What was it?
I can't remember. Someone in the chat remind me of the name. I don't follow this show. I was only following the
So a big technical screw up, and they couldn't air the finale.
Yeah, they couldn't air this thing live, so it was delayed. Anyway, okay. I've now delayed this show to a grinding halt. Rampage was the more
Love is Blind.
That is it. Love is Blind. Yes. Okay. And so is my memory when it comes to this series. But yeah, it was the people that watched this show were upset, I guess.
So sad.
Imagine
people are very passionate about these shows. Absolutely.
Yeah, imagine watching something that's taped in advance. Rampage on Friday night. So this was a unique show because for the last 18 minutes, they aired against the end of SmackDown, but the lead-in from the NBA game, the lead-in was Chicago and Miami, which did 2.2 million viewers, and it led to Rampage doing its 7th highest audience ever. This was the highest number outside of the first 6 weeks of Rampage in 2021, their highest demo number in over a year, and largest 18 to 49 number in a year 40% increase this week in 18 to 34. Their younger audience was through the roof. And it's also like they did have the lead in, which helped. They also did air against the ESPN game that started right after with Oklahoma City and Minnesota. So if you're thinking like all these basketball fans were just like going into Rampage, like you also had another NBA game going against them. So again, you attribute most of this to the NBA, but they also did have competition here. I think things will probably level off, but Rampage, just stick them on after the NBA, whatever time. That's the key.
I really wonder if you put anything after this NBA game, how well it would have done. I'm just looking at the quarter hours here from Brandon Thurston, and it's not a very pretty graph. So
it's just a giant slope after quarter one.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe there's some positive to take out of this as well. But I don't know.
It shows you what an incredible first quarter can do to boost the whole show. Unless maybe there were a ton of Aussie Open fans who wanted to see the best friends challenge for the IWGP tag titles. Maybe.
I again, considering maybe the time slot, was this like really all that big of a card to capitalize on the extra audience to start?
I would say no. I would have done something a lot bigger in that first segment with the idea that there's going to be a lot of non-fans, or like I honestly, I would have put like an MJF on in that first segment. I would have done something that, okay, if I've got some fresh eyes, what is the most compelling thing I can put on in that first quarter? Just with the idea of hooking a few more people rather than just a straight wrestling match, which you've got that audience that are interested in Aussie Open and the best friends. That could go later in the show. I think you raise a good point that you don't get these kinds of lead-ins all that often, especially for Rampage. NXT on Tuesday, they have announced Zoe Stark against Roxanne Perez. Cora Jade will be coming back to take on Gigi Dolan. Gallus, the Dyad, and the Creeds battle for the NXT tag titles. Wes Lee takes on Charlie Dempsey for the North American title. Noam Dar will have a match, and Carmelo Hayes is on the Grayson Waller effect. And Wednesday, Dynamite in Pittsburgh has Britt Baker in her hometown with Jamie Hayter taking on Toni Storm and Ruby Soho. Powerhouse Hobbs and Wardlow for the TNT title. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn against Jake Hager, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. Jay White against Commander, which is an interesting match on paper. The Elite will appear. FTR is going to speak, and Chris Jericho confronts Adam Cole.
All right.
Pittsburgh, Wednesday night. No All Access this week. There's no access.
Well, okay. Well, let's see if the momentum I don't know, continues, or if it recharges, or maybe the week off is giving more people incentive to not follow the show.
Yeah, I think they might need a recharge on All Access. Did they need a recharge in North Little Rock, Arkansas on Monday night? The Simmons Bank Arena with a crowd of over 7,000, according to WrestleTix. And in Canada, people tuning on Sportsnet 360. Where's my wrestling?
Well,
OLN tonight.
They warned you enough times, I would say.
They actually did a very good job. For all the times we talk about, like, they don't publicize certain things, they did a great job the last 2 weeks of constantly getting that scroll up to remind people that this week and next week, Raw's on OLN, as is SmackDown this Friday. But they're going to do a fraction of the audience in Canada on OLN. The Usos and Solo Sikoa come out with Paul Heyman. Lots of heat at the beginning. And Paul Heyman says that history will unfold tonight. And with that, history unfolded with the Judgment Day coming out, and Finn Balor has his new shirt, Finn 14 staples in the font of Austin 316. That I'm sure some people will buy this shirt. Finn 14 staples.
I thought it was like a, like decently clever tweet when he posted the photo with that caption. Listen, with the way that they print shirts, I mean, why not? I'm sure somebody would have purchased it.
Maybe they can find that. Just go the full Austin route, and instead of the bloody picture of Austin, you can have his split head open on the back or something.
You could have, yeah, but I don't know if they would have gotten a good shot. But sure.
Heyman says that no one in this ring is going to heaven, which is quite the downer to start this. And there was a short-term idea conceived by Roman Reigns. And Jay explains, we haven't heard about this plan. Heyman says that Reigns didn't want any of them to know. except Solo Sikoa, so that you could be caught off guard. So basically, it's the Usos who are finding out this plan at the last minute.
Well, what was that logic? Like, what's the benefit of the Usos being caught off guard? Why?
It means that Roman Reigns he's not informing them of this. He's like,
I know, but what was the justification for Heyman for why Roman wanted that?
He wanted their like genuine reaction to be caught off guard and to surprise them. Yeah,
because Roman really cares about live TV reactions.
Maybe that's why Vince McMahon made all those changes throughout the years, like in the middle of Raw. He wanted people to be caught off guard.
Right. Okay. All right.
Hey, Seth, you're not doing a promo, but I'm already in the ring. We wanted you to be caught off guard.
Yeah. Yeah.
He knows that Balor has problems with this arrangement because of the deep-seated issues he has with the bloodline. So at least tying up loose ends. And they have a Bad Bunny concern, and Solo Sikoa can take care of that. Sikoa and Ripley stare at one another. The crowd's chanting for Rhea, and Heyman says that Solo will take care of Bad Bunny. But tonight we have an Owens, Zayn, and Riddle problem. So even though Solo has run through these three, there's still problems. They're still breathing, and thus they are problems.
We've yet to really understand what taking out means. I think it means long-term injury, and they've yet to achieve that. Yes.
But does he have to kill them? Is that acceptable?
Mm-hmm.
And they confirm that the 6-man tag will happen at Backlash. But first, Owens, Zayn, and Riddle will team against the three male members of the Judgment Day. And Solo is going to take on Rey Mysterio, which was our opener. So utilizing the Judgment Day and the Bloodline in this opening segment. And further reason why you shouldn't be splitting up the rosters so that you can fill out an episode of Raw with whatever you want and then go to Rey Mysterio of what show's Rey on? Is he SmackDown? I think no, he went to SmackDown, right? To get away from Dominic. And he can't get away from him. Yeah.
They're not really making a great case for us wanting to see these rosters split. But nonetheless, I thought, while we had this sort of a soft brand split, if you want to call it that, I thought this made for a really nice theme to tonight's show. Major corporations with questionable ethics work together in real life. Why wouldn't they in wrestling? You could even call this a merger between the Bloodline and the Judgment Day.
But don't call it a reverse Morris Trust.
It wasn't that. No. We don't know the basis points, and we don't know really the the makeup of this short-term merger here.
But we did get some conformity.
Plenty, yeah. What was the other term? Conformity? Was that even one of them?
I don't know. Maybe I made up my own.
I thought it was an idea that elevates the Judgment Day up to the Bloodline's level. And you can, many would argue that the Judgment Day are already at that level. But I mean, the Bloodline are main eventers. They main event pay-per-views. Judgment Day are certainly on their way, but they've really yet to main event to pay-per-view until Backlash, which I think might be the first time. So it also allows for tonight's matches to all have this further meaning between them. It allows you to just kind of mix everything up and you're able to see fresh matchups between really hot opponents. And it just kind of gives the show an overall feeling of specialness. And I especially love some of the individual details that Heyman mentioned here. The Usos being kept in the dark, Finn excusing his prior rivalry with Reigns, but especially the way they had Rhea pair up with Solo Sikoa. Genders at that point are pretty much moot. They're both recognized enforcers of the group. And let's say in a Marvel movie, nobody would bat an eye at seeing the Scarlet Witch, pair up with a Doctor Strange and destroy a Doctor Strange. So in wrestling, why wouldn't that be the case? And I think it just shows you how great of a job they've done with Rhea Ripley by having her feel like somebody who's on the level of a Solo Sikoa, who can take out as many people as Solo does. So I thought this was great.
Great synergies in this opening segment of Raw. Solo Sikoa and Rey Mysterio was first. When Solo had the heat, this audience was sort of checked out. But man, when Rey made his comebacks, God, did this crowd get behind Rey. He went for a quebrada, and Solo caught him into a Samoan drop, then a tilt-a-whirl into the ropes. Rey hits the 619 and hits the splash 2 count. The crowd is red hot. The Usos come down and they are attacked by the LWO. Sikoa then catches him on the 619 attempt. Ray kicks him back onto the rope, lands the 619, but the splash misses and he hoists up Ray for the Samoan spike in 12 minutes and 39 seconds. And Ray, super popular in this match, but Solo Sikoa just running through him as the nearly unblemished record of Solo Sikoa reigns continues.
Yeah, are you still questioning the Cody loss?
Half and half. I haven't been given a solid reason why that was so necessary. Not even that him losing to Cody is a bad idea just on that Monday. Doing that match to begin with. But I don't think, to be quite honest, neither guy was harmed by it. I'm just looking at, was there more to give Cody that win at a different point? Right. But nonetheless.
Yeah. Maybe it's something they'll get to in the future, like Solo avenging his loss to Cody. But this week, I think you're right. Like Solo continues to just have this status that is really above almost everybody outside of Roman Reigns in the bloodline. And they managed to maintain that pretty well despite losing that match to Cody. And Ray, on the other hand, is somebody who I think has lost like 3 matches in a row or however many. Like he's lost at least the 2 matches, I would say, after Mania.
Beating Dominic?
Yeah, after beating Dominic. So, but despite that, people still cheer him just as loud. So he could take as many losses as he needs. It almost doesn't really matter. So, yeah.
He has one singular focus in these matches. Hit that 619.
Yes.
That's his driving force. Okay. That's his 144th floor every match. That's it.
Yeah. If he could hit that, I mean, it's a good day and he doesn't need the win.
Sikoa and the Usos attack the LWO, and Sikoa continues with Samoan spikes to Cruz del Toro and Santos Escobar, heavy boos, and then the 1D onto Rey Mysterio. And yeah,
I mean, this was also, beyond elevating Judgment Day up to the bloodline level. I mean, this also puts the LWO directly in the line of sight of the Usos, and now you can have that interaction and build to that match, which I think they alluded to later on in the show. So I would say continued strong elevation for the LWO, even though they got laid out here, but it means they'll get revenge, you would hope.
And while it isn't presented as I would say competitive match, it does further Rhea Ripley and Zelina Vega that they've been teasing on television, which at least they're giving a reason for it. Like Rhea is sort of in this kind of post-Mania picture where they haven't built up all these challengers, but she's involved in this, and it's an opponent that you can do that match at. I would do it at Backlash, to be quite honest, to where you want the LWO to have
in Puerto Rico for Zelina to have a match like in Puerto Rico. Absolutely.
Alpha Academy and Maxine are in the back with Adam Pearce, and Gable wants to be a package deal with Otis in the draft. Maxine is pitching to Pearce that her and Otis should be a package, and then refers to Gable as Chas, which is his real name. And Otis and Maxine, there's a shoosh battle with Maxine and Chas.
I mean, I don't know if any of these are going to be drafted on the show itself. They'll probably have to go to .com to find out where they're drafted.
There's an announcement that Bad Bunny will be on Raw next week in Chicago, so that should be the setup for Backlash. Bianca Belair and Dakota Kai, who had damage control in her corner. Belair hit a running blockbuster in the ring and then did the vertical suplexes and a handspring moonsault. Kai then misses off the top, and then a tilt-a-whirl to a gutbuster is hit by Belair. She goes for the KOD, but Kai holds onto the braid, landing on her feet, and then Kai stops a glam slam, and Kay then misses in the corner. Belair grabs her, lifts her up for the KOD, and pins her in 9 minutes and 15 seconds. And they cut to Bayley, who is looking annoyed that Dakota Kai failed, and EO is just looking down. So it looks to be we're planting the seeds for Bayley and Dakota Kai at least to be at odds.
I mean, they were planting those seeds with EO too, right? With EO getting the title shot. So maybe damage control breaking up soon. But I thought Kai looked really good here. I thought this might have been Kai's most significant singles match on the main roster thus far. Good TV match. I was maybe a little disappointed that we didn't get more presence from Bianca on the mic. I think she needs a lot more of that lately. In ring, we know is very good, but I haven't really heard great promos from her for her last several feuds. So I was hoping we would have had a bit more of that, but maybe we'll get to it next week.
What happened to Asuka after WrestleMania? Poof.
I mean, you lose and
you disappear.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I mean, maybe it tells you just how limited like the women's creative is recently. Like if you're not involved with Becky, if you're not involved with Belair, there's really not much room for you.
That alone would have been higher stakes for that match. Title versus your existence.
Yeah.
Airtime. Mm-hmm. And then we had a Bronson Reed video where he's lifting weights and his mother used to call him Mr. Nice Guy. And that's who I am, Mr. Nice Guy. Sometimes if I was handed this, I would just assume it's like, okay, haha, guys. Like they don't really think I'm reading this. And then like, guys, he really read it.
Well, maybe it's true. You don't know this.
Sure, I'm sure it's true. It doesn't mean it's I don't know. Maybe 5 years from now we're gonna be looking at just loads of Mr. Nice Guy merchandise from the nephew, Bronson Reed with Uncle Bobby Lashley, and we're gonna look like fools on Freezing Cold Takes.
As a nickname, I don't hate it. You know, a guy who looks like that, calling himself Mr. Nice Guy. I mean, it's kind of interesting. How do you think Kurt Hennig reacted the first time he was pitched Mr. Perfect?
I think if you saw those vignettes, he was like, this will work. This will be pretty good.
Well, maybe Bronson Reed just needs vignettes where he's being really nice.
I mean,
saying hi.
You can do a lot worse than be like, your gimmick is you're perfect. Okay. You're not like, hey, it's Mr. Average.
That
like
was
that I would raise an eyebrow over.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm Mr. Average. How do we I literally can't improve all that much. I'm the bar. I'm the line of the gatekeeper role.
I'm sure somebody will do that if they haven't already.
The Judgment Day react to Bad Bunny returning next week, and Priest expects him to show up next week with a new attitude. Heyman asks, were you guys satisfied? And Balor's response is, eh. And Heyman says, what? Will you guys just be with Owens, Zayn, and Riddle tonight? And don't fall in debt with Roman Reigns. And they explain they handle their business. That's an issue for the Bloodline.
Clearly, like, Finn reacts the way we all do to the Bloodline's definition of taking out. You know, what exactly is taking out? You just beat the guy. Like, what? That's it? He's going to be back next week.
Yeah, I like that Solo Sikoa literally did take out Matt Riddle for months.
Right.
But then he comes back and he's still a problem. So taking him out is not even like a long-term solution.
Right. Death is the only solution.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Big entrance for Cody Rhodes. He wants Brock Lesnar, but Adam Pearce explains, you're not cleared to compete tonight. And Cody goes to leave, but then he grabs a chair. He comes in. The crowd wants Brock, and Pearce calls on security. So we get the whole independent security team running down, and Cody starts attacking the security members. He takes out like 20 guys in this whole thing. But the highlight of this was out comes new look Brock. And we're always ready for the spring line of Brock Lesnar. And this year he is going with black cowboy hat and, with all due respect to the Mogul affiliates, the trench. Black trench coat, Brock Lesnar coming out here. And I was ready for the jean wearing Brock to update the look. We have gotten it. And after Cody takes on literally 20 guys away and takes them all out, Cody tells Lesnar, you're not a cowboy, you're a coward.
Nice play on words, Cody. Nice.
You bitch.
I think I think it's an interesting look for Brock. You know, I appreciate the fact that you know, he turned heel, he needs a new look, and I guess if you're Brock Lesnar, as
Brock and Trish realize we're turning heel, we're wearing black.
I wonder if those two communicated, because I think if I was Trish, I'd be pissed. Somebody stole my outfit.
So right down to the hat. You're right.
Right down to the hat. There you go. But you know what? Sure, like Brock wearing anything, but like what Brock Lesnar wears, I think is amusing. So
I'm just picturing them swapping theme songs for their heel turns.
Yeah. and they gave Cody what the Wardlow treatment here, and
Yeah.
it was effective. Very hot crowd reactions. Nice little play on words here at the end from Cody. You're not a cowboy, you're a coward. Yeah. Strong baby face, strong heel. I guess all I'm still waiting for is like a real explanation from Brock about why he did the attack.
He went on first at Mania. This was an embarrassment.
Is that what he said?
And he's got the main event now for Backlash.
Well, that's what Cody said. Do we know that those were actually Brock's feelings?
Well, maybe Brock has a different reason that we're going to find eventually.
Okay. So why didn't he attack Roman? Well, I guess because he can't. Because he can't challenge for the title anymore.
That's right.
All right.
I don't have a good explanation for you yet. We'll have to wait. We got Trish explaining her actions. We don't have a segment of Brock explaining his actions. The Miz against Seth Rollins. It's one of the best singles matches of the Miz's career.
It was pretty damn good. Yeah.
So the story is that Miz has been utterly embarrassed. So he came out here with, I'm going to say, probably the best guy on the roster. And they had an excellent 12-minute match. And yes, there's a common thread that a lot of guys seem to have some of their best matches with Seth Rollins or LeRae on this roster, but more consistently Seth. Miz, I'm not going to compare him to the level of Seth, but Miz did well in this match. This was not just a one-sided performance. There was an added aggression from Miz. The announcers really played up that here was a guy that this is a former champion that has been humiliated and came out and did a totally un-Miz-like style of match. And I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. I think the Miz will always perform to what's asked of him, and most of the time, I don't think the producers of the show are asking the Miz to have a Seth Rollins level match. They're asking him to kind of, play the goofball that gets beaten up by has Baron
Shane McMahon, or was about to.
Exactly. He sell for the celebrities. You're going to lose to Pat McAfee. He's not really called upon to have a stunning 20-minute match with Chad Gable or something, right? This was an exception. Seth Rollins is one of those guys. And I think this showed that when called upon, Miz can deliver a Seth Rollins level match.
As an aside, is it not just a little weird that we all were watching WrestleMania and we all see Shane go down? Like, there's never a peep about
none.
He's recovering.
The less said, the better. Yeah.
Not a thing. Like, for all you know, he was just carted off, and we'll never hear from Shane McMahon again. That was our final Shane McMahon moment on the last day before the company was officially announced as being sold or merged.
I think it tells you there were never supposed to be further plans with Shane. I would think.
Just Corey Graves, hey, we wish Shane a speedy recovery. He tore his quad. He's healing at home. Nothing. You don't even get an update as a viewer. You see this guy go down and he's out, and that's your last visual of Shane. They couldn't even wish him well the next night or something. No update. Nothing.
It seemed like it was a blemish on the show that they probably wanted to edit out, which is really unfortunate. Maybe Shane will come back and he'll explain. He'll say, "Hey, last time I was here, things weren't that great for me." Maybe he'll tell us a comeback story, a road to, like a beautiful day with Shane McMahon.
Do you know how many quad tears are in that family?
4?
5.
5. Okay.
Hunter tore his twice, and Vince tore 2 at once.
Okay. Yes. Wow. Ouch.
That's a lot of quads.
Mm-hmm. You got to stretch. Really.
You always got to stretch.
Yeah.
That was the key.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of aggression from the Miz. He's attacking with knee strikes. Rollins comes back with a suicide dive. What was cool here was the audience is singing the entire time. This will get aggravating at a point, but it's not there yet for me.
Would it be as aggravating as a guy shouting about his love of the Bullet Club right behind you at a Impact Wrestling event?
I did not get access to the commentary at Impact, so I had my personal commentary behind me all night long at Rebellion, who, as I said on the show, you can't fault a wrestling fan for being a wrestling fan, but I thought for sure this guy was running out of steam by match 2, and dude, he was going strong by the end of the night. He did not slow down.
Part of the live wrestling experience, right?
That's it. That's what you're signing up for. I don't think unless someone is saying something like utterly offensive, I don't think you can complain about fans, cheering.
You could tweet about it.
Of course, that's part of the fun. So the pedigree gets blocked. There's a sling blade by Rollins and then a buckle bomb, a frog splash. But Miz not only gets the knees up, but then goes right into a small package for a 2 count. Crowd is getting into it with the near falls. Rollins gets spiked with a DDT, back-to-back DDTs. That leads to a near fall. And then a skull-crushing finale off the turnbuckle gets blocked. Rollins with the superplex and Falcon Arrow. Crowd is on their feet and curb stomp to win in 12:07. A really great match. Match of the show easily on Monday night.
I really like the main event as well, but you could definitely make an argument for this one.
I like this one more than the main event. And it was sort of not a match that I would say you were looking at tonight's lineup. And, Seth Rollins, what you're going to get most weeks, but I don't think people were. This certainly was above what I would have expected from these two on a Raw, 2-segment match.
You had a Seth Rollins level TV match, and those are arguably the best TV matches in the entire company. And I thought they gave the Miz a whole lot. They had, for a guy that was losing to Pat McAfee and on the first night dropping to Snoop Dogg, they had Miz basically go 50-50 with Seth Rollins here. And I think that's just because you want a competitive back and forth matchup when you're watching Seth Rollins. And this turned out great. The result was a fantastic TV match that lit this crowd on fire.
And Rollins is one of those guys that even if you're going to do a bit of a reset with this draft, how long they stick to it, he is someone that I feel like having his own show, for instance, or something he is to me somebody that even in a upper mid card position that he's in now, I still feel should be at a higher level. This guy is incredible.
I almost think he's too good on a TV level. It's, we kind of had this conversation in the past where who we could see taking Roman's spot other than a Cody. And because Seth is so good at looking great even in a losing effort, they're so willing to have him lose a whole lot. And therefore, I don't know if that aura has been built, that superstar like Cody level, Roman Reigns level, even the solo Sikoa level aura is necessarily there with the Seth Rollins, who I'm starting to see a lot more as just kind of your perennial TV level main eventer. But they could change that. They could go serious with him and have him suddenly really be competitive against the Roman Reigns, and people will probably take him seriously.
Owens and Zayn are with Riddle in the locker room, and Riddle's got some ideas. Owens doesn't want to hear his ideas, and Riddle explains that to offset the Samoan spike, he could tape up his toe and hit him with the toe bro. And Owens thinks this is the stupidest idea, but Riddle says, I was just joking. And then he gets serious and says that the bloodline took out my partner, took my title, and nearly ended my career. And I watched you two take the belts from the Usos. I'm not here to waste your time. I'm here to kick some ass, and that's what I'm going to do tonight. So he storms off. Then Owens storms off, and that's our setup for tonight. So maybe a signal of at least a glimmer of going a more serious direction with Riddle, although I know we will be back to pot jokes. Though they did escape the easy 420 references this week.
True. You're right. Well, thank goodness Raw isn't on Wednesday. So I thought it you're at this point, you need to evolve Riddle. You really need to show a different dynamic from the character so that he's just not so one note. I thought that they would kind of go that same route where you'd have Owens being the serious guy and Riddle kind of being the comedy figure. And I'm sure they will kind of go back to that a little bit because they need some sort of dynamic that works. But ultimately you have to show that Riddle has another side. And I thought they effectively did that here.
Austin Theory and Bobby Lashley. This was not a title match. At least they never referred to it as a title match. It was just these two having another match together. Graves compared Austin Theory to Tom Brady and how people always hate greatness. Always getting these two mixed up. Theory misses a shoulder into the corner, so Lashley slams him, then goes for the spear, but Theory leapfrogs it. Graves is just going on and on about the strategy of Austin Theory, the strategy. And then Lashley spins him off the shoulders. Theory rolls out, avoiding the spear, and then does his roll into the ring, into the hurt lock. But before he can lock his hands together for the hurt lock, Bronson Reed, Mr. Nice Guy, pops up out of nowhere. Nobody saw this man coming in the ring, and he attacks Lashley for the DQ after 12 minutes and 4 seconds, shoulder tackle off the apron, then splashes Lashley against the post. And then it's Lashley who makes his comeback, goes for the hurt lock, but Theory stops him with a drop kick, and Reed hits him with a Samoan drop and tsunami to end the segment. So uncle and nephew are still attached at the hip.
Uncle and nephew?
Keep
Bronson
forgetting
Reed.
this
Yeah,
legendary backstage. I had to re-explain it to you last week, and you just refused to remember Bobby Lashley being called his uncle and Bronson Reed his nephew.
I will try my best to remember. I thought the match was turning out pretty good, like these two were like getting into like a pretty exhaustive battle where I thought Theory like had some elevated aggression against somebody like a Bobby Lashley, convincingly keeping somebody as dominant as Bobby Lashley down. The gimmick now appears to be them having non-finishes in this Bronson Reed Bobby Lashley match, which is very unsatisfying, of course. But I would say at the end of this, though, I did want to see Reed versus Lashley more. So in that sense, it was effective. Was it effective for an Austin Theory, to continue to maybe escape these sort of wins? I think that's questionable. Like you can argue he's like a Miz level type of heel who escapes with victories or survives. But why would you want to make him a Miz level heel when he should probably be a bit more capable than that?
Well, I would have said that before WrestleMania, but then he got that career-changing win over John Cena. And look at where he is post.
The follow-up has been everything, and you're right. Like I don't know if he's at a much higher level than he was before that program.
He just, to me, he is not. Like again, he's someone that you can see the reason why they have expectations for him, but to me, the package together, he has not hit that next gear. For this audience, just in terms of someone that you're looking at and stating, yeah, this guy is that person that is ready for that next big step up. I think you're just waiting for where is that spark that elevates him. And the Cena program, I think now that we're this many weeks removed from it, I feel it was an afterthought at WrestleMania, and 2 weeks later, I can certainly say it feels like an afterthought.
Yeah, they haven't really hit it home, I would say, that hard.
It was that crowd after Mania. They just eviscerated him on Raw. The Raw after Mania. It's a just deadly crowd. Trish Stratus is out, as we said, all in black in her heel attire. And she gets on the mic and she says, when she first came here, women's wrestling was a joke, and I single-handedly changed it all. It wasn't me and Lita. There was no we. It was me. And there was no women's division without me. I was the first woman to headline Raw and the first woman you cared about. There would be no women's revolution or women headlining WrestleMania without Trish Stratus. You should have been chanting, "Thank you, Trish," when they headlined WrestleMania. Becky would make you think that all of this began with the 4 Horse Ladies. Their alternate name, the Horse Ladies. Mm-hmm. They would think they started all this. Well, Becky Lynch is a joke. And I let it slide before questioning if Becky actually believed her own hype. So I came here to see for myself. Becky never once thanked me, even convinced Lita to join her after calling her out last year. And then Lita became Becky's sidekick. Trish is no one's sidekick, and she had to take out Lita to make it clear who screwed Becky out of the tag title. So we do get the finality to the Phantom Attack last week, that it was in fact Trish, and Lita, like her best friend, jumps her, and she had no knowledge of it as well.
Come on, if you
jumped me from behind, I'd at least have a glimpse. I would know it was you. I'd be like, "Way, this is unbelievable!" And you're going to defend my tag title, and I'm not even going to be able to get to Becky to let her know.
I feel like would I be your top suspect right away?
You're right. But like just the physics of it all. Like, what'd you do? Hit me with a pipe from behind? She was holding her leg, right?
I don't.
Wasn't it her leg she was holding?
I don't recall the body part where that
she wasn't out cold. That's the point. Okay.
Well, maybe she was wearing a hood, ski mask. We don't know how. Black trench coat, probably. That's what that was it.
I think Trish is pretty identifiable backstage.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
She is not going to let Becky rewrite history. I am not a nostalgia act. I'm not a childhood fantasy or a sidekick. I'm the greatest of all time and the single most important figure in the history of WWE. Bruno, Austin, no, Trish Stratus, and none of you will forget it. I thought she did a really great job with this promo.
When she started, I definitely sensed a little bit of nerves, at least to me. I mean, we remember, like, this is what, her first real heel promo in how long, John? Like when was the last time she played heel?
Yeah, like 2005, you're probably going back to.
So what was that for? Was that the Jericho Christian stuff? Like,
yeah, that was 04. It carried over into 05. She was still doing that heel character. Yeah, so you're talking like 18 years.
Like it's almost like 20 years since this woman played a heel in a professional wrestling setting. And I could understand if there was maybe a bit of like nervousness. Like early portion of this promo felt to me like she was reciting like a memorized script. But throughout the promo, oh yeah, I'm sure. But throughout the promo, I thought she really started sounding natural and believable, especially towards the end when she got into her closing lines about not being a nostalgia act, not your childhood fantasy. She's the greatest of all time. I thought she delivered those lines as if she's really meant it, and I like the story. I think the logic is really sound.
She hit like the mission statement of the character, which is often sometimes missing. Go to your Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes argument. Like she clearly,
or the outcasts.
Exactly. Like she made it very like there's no mystery. What happened to Lita? You know why it happened. Why did she team with Becky when she had attacked Lita? Like all of it made sense. And I thought she was pretty poised here in this interview. You even had the what chance that she just powered through, and you notice they quickly died. She didn't acknowledge them. She didn't stop because so many, they're trained to just, if it's noticeable, you play off of it, and it's so awkward sometimes. She just kept going, and they stopped, and it was a non-issue in it. I thought it was a good promo.
I like the idea that here's somebody from, prior to the Four Horsewomen women's revolution era coming in and resenting them and wanting to, resenting them for basically wiping her out of memory, except like Trish is not really fighting for it like the Mickie James and also like the Lita. She feels like she was the only person who really mattered, and she resents them for wiping her out of memory, which I think is a solid story. I do maybe only question like why she carried on with the match for as long as she did last week, knowing that she attacked Lita and her goal was to lose the championships by the end. Why wrestle for like 10-15 minutes? Why not just attack Becky and have a double team from Damage Control or Liv and Raquel right away?
Well, there is that aspect to it that like she lost the fall as well.
Well, she could have just taken the fall right away. Why get hurt?
That's it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, anyway, maybe she had to really make it convincing so that she could turn. Because what I thought she said, what I thought she was going to explain was that she made up her mind at the end of the match. She made up her mind about the turn at the end of the match. But if she had attacked Lita prior, then obviously she had made up her mind before.
Well, that was the part, right, that maybe there's an inconsistency, because she did explain it was when Becky gave her like this pep talk after the loss that was where she like just felt it like was demeaning to her.
So then what? She was going to attack Lita and then just kind of let that simmer and not mention it if they won the championships?
Keep going, like ride this out for a little bit and then, capitalize when Becky is least expecting it while Lita is rehabbing the injury.
Okay. All right.
When do you see them pulling the trigger on this Becky match? Do you see it being a long-term play?
It could.
I don't see them doing that so quick. Like Backlash, I don't think that's happening. I think this is more down the road.
I was thinking maybe Saudi, but like now that they're calling it Night of Champions, I mean neither of them have a championship, so maybe that's something you could delay. Yes, SummerSlam feels like way too long.
That's 4 months.
That feels too long. I mean, they could work a long-term program that culminates there, but probably a bit long for it. So,
like, what do you do with the two of them in between then?
Yeah, what's after?
Unless Lita comes back and Trish does do a match with Lita in the lead up to that, you could do that.
Trish versus Lita right now. I don't know if they could.
Well, I don't think so. But you listen to this promo, and that is certainly a door they've left open. And who is Becky to wrestle in it? SummerSlam feels really long.
So what's after Night of Champions? Do they have
Money
a show?
in the Bank? And that's July.
Right.
So
could be Night of Champions. Could be Backlash. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Kathy Kelly interviews Cody Rhodes, and he was satisfied to be wrestling Lesnar. The match is official, but also confused about tonight and being held back by security. He's backed Lesnar into a corner, but he can't allow Brock to win.
I didn't really get this promo from
I didn't
from
either. And one of the announcers was like, Cody put it so simply. I was like, no,
Yeah.
I really didn't get the message here. He was upset that security held him back, and Lesnar
like I went
just
back
walked away.
and listened to this like twice just to kind of see if like I was missing something that was supposed to be simple. Like this was a rare.
This is not the first Cody backstage interview in WWE that it's the message sign. It doesn't come across as easy in delivery.
Yeah.
So anyway, Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green against Candice LeRae and Michin with Raquel and Liv Morgan at ringside. Power and Chaos, that appears to be the name they are going with.
Are they actually? Did they actually?
That's what
that?
Kevin Patrick referred to them as.
Do we hate that? Come on, they could do worse. I'm happy that they at least have a name. All right, call back to Power.
What would our name be?
Apathy and I don't know. What are our traits?
Apathy and unapathy. I don't know. Nikki Cross is in the front row, waving at Candice. So that's still going on. There was a code blue to Michin, and then Green yanks LeRae off the edge of the apron. Green stops an eat defeat to Deville and hits the unprettier because she's the legal woman, pinning Michin in 309 in a match that went 309. And Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green challenged Raquel and Liv on Friday.
The crowd were pretty ice cold for this 309, and not much time to build this match. First of all, the division itself is still very cold outside of a select few. Match was fine, but really not enough to get this crowd intrigued, especially this deep into the show.
Green then tossed a drink onto Liv Morgan and they ran away. So that's our heat for Friday. Street Profits are explaining how the draft works to Rick Boogs. Should just tell him at the end, don't worry about it. Like whatever show you're on, you can just go back and forth. Corbin reminds the Street Profits the teams can be split up in the draft. And then you can also get back together. And Elias explains to Boogs that I'll probably go first, but I'll put in a good word for you. Akira Tozawa enters, calling Boogs a big star, while Elias will be the last pick. Corbin laughs and calls that a good one. And Tozawa says, no one wants Corbin. You're a joke. This is a great segment. I can't wait for this draft. I was so excited at the end.
Tozawa really should look into the mirror. The man hasn't been on TV in like 5 months. Like, if there's nobody, some people don't really care about. Unfortunately, it's Akira Tozawa. Like, man, like what I'm assuming he's been on Main Event.
He's been doing Main Event here and there.
Yeah. No, the 24/7 divisions loss really, I think, has affected probably him in scripts the most.
Oh, scripts. Yeah. The Usos did a promo. Just, we're facing you at Backlash. You're the twos. We're the ones. We had 2 minutes to fill. And the main event, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Matt Riddle against Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio. I went upstairs and I came back and it was like 10:59. And I have never watched a match as quickly as I did this match.
Wow.
So there was a big spot where Ripley clotheslines Owens to the floor. Balor then rolls him back in. They make a tag to Riddle, who's in with the Broton and a fisherman. They get the heat on Riddle. Eventually, Zayn is tagged. He hit this crazy sunset bomb to Dominic that looked fun. Rhea then stops Zayn and knocks him off the top. Owens makes a save after a frog splash, and then Judgment Day are all on the floor, and Zayn goes for the Tope Con Hero, but Rhea trips him, and Rhea gets ejected, which if she watched SmackDown would realize, I'll just come back in a minute, but she didn't. Owens goes for the swan dive, lands on the knees of Dominic, shotgun by Balor, and as he goes for the coup de grace, he misses, stunners to Balor and Priest, haluva kick on Balor, and then tags Riddle, who gets the floating bro and pin on Balor in 12:24. Before the Usos and Sikoa attack the babyfaces. Ray runs down with the LWO, and we get the babyfaces clearing the ring after a 619 to Dominic, and we got Ray, the LWO, Owens, Riddle, and Zayn. If perhaps we're building to a
10-man tag? How many men?
Yeah, like 12-man tag. We got 3
okay.
LWO
6
members.
on each side? No, there's 4 LWO members.
14-man tag. You're right. Yeah, we got
Four,
with Ray.
seven.
It's 4 plus 3 is 7.
14-man tag, right?
That's a lot of people. Yeah.
That's a lot of people. They could do it on TV. That'd be interesting. I'm sure it'd be fun.
Who's on the other side? We've got 3 Judgment Day members. I guess you could throw Rhea in there, and then you've got
the 3 Bloodline members, like minus no Roman, because I don't think
Roman ain't doing a 14-man tag on TV.
Yeah. I thought this was a really excellent trios main event. Great job by the Judgment Day anytime they had control of the baby faces, and great action whenever they were able to sequence their moves one after the other. I thought it was really great use of Rhea on the outside as well. So strong TV main event. And I overall really enjoyed this episode of Raw. Like, I love the theme of them basically mixing feuds and having different heel opponents do the dirty work for the other team. I like them trading opponents, which made for a really interesting edition of the show, and it's something I hope they continue, because I think in the end it elevates almost everybody. It elevated the end of LWO on the show. Judgment Day I thought were elevated, but to like a Bloodline level, and it just made for a fresh, exciting matchup. So I like the show, and I wonder if there'd be similar complaints about Vince booking WWE after watching this one.
Well, I don't think there were too many complaints on this episode of Raw. I thought it was
so. Should we congratulate Vince for booking a good edition of Raw?
Listen, I am sure this is a show that he oversaw, and whatever involvement he had, and maybe he got his request in that we've got to have Cody destroy 20 guys. It's like, Vince, that's ridiculous. That's just, he's going to beat 20 guys up at once. 20. Can't be 18. It can't be 14. It's got to be 20.
All right.
Well, that was Raw, and probably at least through the draft, you're probably going to get a lot of mixing and matching of those players that you had at the end of the show between the LWO, the tag champions, Riddle, and the Bloodline. You can do tags, you can do trios, you can do an 8-man, you could do your 14-man or 14-person if you throw in Rhea there. Probably that's kind of your main event scene when you don't have Roman Reigns on these shows and they're bouncing back and forth on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, I thought it was a really nice way of tying everything together, and giving you, again, fresh matchups and almost a large amount of interesting, consequential matches.
All right, let's go to your feedback. Forum.postwrestling.com. And we're going to go to Timothy, who says that Seth versus Miz was the match of the night for me. Having a heel Bronson Reed against face Bobby Lashley could be good. Dakota Kai feels like the third wheel in Damage Control and deserves much better. Triple H hasn't done anything with any of the women that he's brought back and feel like it's been a big waste. Yes, I know that Io and her won the tag titles, but those titles have never meant anything since their inception. Is McIntyre's blackout of his Twitter profile a storyline reason like Becky's, or could he possibly be gone at some point this year? Well, Drew has not been on the show since WrestleMania ended, and it had been reported that he had some kind of health issue that we are not aware of. But I mean, he also had been reported that his deal is up, but not till around the end of the year. So he will, barring some unforeseen circumstance, be back. But I can't tell you what the exact motivation of his Twitter thing is. But I don't always read in too much about Twitter activity.
Me neither. I mean, probably to get people talking.
Which it always does. It always does kind of generate that kind of buzz for people. But as did Bailey for a week and was right back. And I assume when Drew is
when are you going to do it? When are you going to cash in your Twitter blackout?
You see, the idea of people talking about me is dreadful. So I will put a light coming out of my Twitter avatar. Okay, I'm not going anywhere.
That would get
spoiler.
that would probably get people talking just the same.
Well, there you go. Thank you, Timothy. And that's going to wrap up the show. Exciting week coming up, Way.
Yeah, we got a lot coming up, especially again tomorrow. Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom. Did I get that right?
You
nailed
nail
everything.
That's it.
Preview show.
I was going to ask, what's on the wellness policy this week?
Yeah, I actually have it here from Jordan. You really caught me off guard with it. I wish maybe I'll let people know on Wednesday, because I don't want there's been enough dead air.
You're getting a wellness policy plus a big one. Saturday night, live at 9 Eastern. It's the NWA podcast. AEW, forget all the sports, UFC, WWE. You want to go head to head with the NWA podcast with Nate, Chris, and Andrew? Poor choice. And this Saturday night, Brian Mann is back with Nate Milton and company, and they will be chatting everything in the world of professional wrestling. Always great when Brian Mann graces us with his presence. So always fun. Big week here at Post Wrestling. And again, multiple shows up at postwrestlingcafe.com. We've got the Rebellion review for you with myself and John Cena, and Rewind Away up Thursday this week. So you can go subscribe. $6 gets you in the door. Access to all of our bonus shows at postwrestlingcafe.com. You can also subscribe at video.postwrestling.com, and that gives you access to all of our bonus shows in video form. Couldn't have anything better than that. Yes.
Yeah.
And follow Way on Instagram. Always a great follow.
And follow John on Instagram at I'm John Pollock. He's fantastic. You know, I've noticed you've been using stories. You're becoming quite the Instagram storyer.
You know, I'm slowly getting up to 2014 level of technology. Shout out to the listener that said hi to me at No Frills today. Very nice.
Oh,
always
great.
nice. I met a bunch of listeners at Rebellion, and then today I was like hearing from people that showed up.
We like to see the sunlight once in a while.
At our core, we're very vain, and we need all that positive reinforcement. So you always you never cease to amaze us. So thank you, everybody. And that's going to wrap up the show. We're back on Wednesday with Rewind to Dynamite. Tuesday's up next. That's enough. I'm going to bed. I've been up for way too long, and you have heard my voice for as long as you need to today. Goodbye.